A struggling console manufacturer decides to take its product worldwide. Will it succeed? Let's take a look at the Sega Master System.
Sega challenges you with the ultimate video game, the Sega Master System, with twice as much memory as any other video game. Advanced video technology like scrolling backgrounds, graphics in 64 colors, digital sounds, and light phasers. And you can add to the excitement with sports pads, control sticks, and the first video games ever in 3D.
Sega's the one.
The Sega Master System. The challenge will always be there.
What's up, YouTube? Retrogamer Gen X back with another episode of A Look At. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Sega Master System. Just like all episodes of A Look At, we'll be taking a look at the history of the system, what's inside of it, the silicone, chips, that type of thing. We'll be taking a 360 tour of the console itself. Then we'll power it up and do some gameplay. And at the very end of the video is my conclusion, where I kind of give you my thoughts and my impressions of the system itself. Also, in between each segment, I put in commercials that kind of show you how the system was marketed back in the late 80s and early 90s. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look, guys.
With the Sega Master System Plus special packs, you get the console, controllers, light gun, 2 games, and either Golden Axe or Michael Jackson's Moonwalker absolutely free. It's such great value that now Dad's just as keen on getting one as me. Hey, Dad? Ow!
Do me a favor, plug me into a Sega.
The story of the Sega Master System really starts in 1983 with the release of its first game console, the SG-1000 in Japan. It was released on the same day as Nintendo's Famicom, but unfortunately did not see the success that Nintendo did. In 1984, Sega's parent company, Gulf and Western Industries, divested in non-core businesses, including Sega. Sega now owned itself and put Nakayama as the CEO of the newly founded Sega Enterprises. Also in 1984, Sega released another console called the SG-1000 Mark II. This featured several hardware revisions and also a detachable controllers from the system. Then in 1985, Sega released the Sega Mark III, which was another redesign of the SG-1000. It was engineered by Hideki Soto and Masami Ishiwaka. According to Soto, the console was designed due to the limitations of the SG-1000's GPU, and they wanted something that would be able to compete with the graphics of the Nintendo, so they designed a new graphics chip based on the Sega System 2 arcade board. The Mark III was released in October of 1985 in Japan only, but had problems finding publishers due to the licensing agreements that Nintendo had already set up with most companies. And once again, Sega had a console that was not very successful in Japan. Sega knew they had a great video game system and wanted to release it worldwide to compete with the likes of Nintendo and Atari. In 1986, Sega formed Sega of America with Bruce Lorry, Nintendo of America's former vice president of sales, heading this group. Rebranded as the Master System, the system itself was redesigned, appealing more to the American market. It was first revealed in the summer CES show in Chicago in 1986. The console itself was launched in September of 1986 at a price of $200 in the United States. Sega hoped to sell more than 700,000 units by the end of 1986, but unfortunately their projections fell short, only selling 125,000 units. While Nintendo at the same point sold more than 1.1 million units. Just like in Japan, Nintendo had licensing agreements with most American publishers, leading to Sega to develop pretty much their own game library and not having the help of third-party developers. In 1987, Sega sold the distribution rights to the Master System to toy company Tonka. Nintendo had marketed the Nintendo Entertainment System as a toy, so Sega felt that if they marketed it with a toy company, it might increase sales. But Tonka already purchased Kenner Toys in 1987, and after a horrible Christmas season, funds were running low for Tonka, And in 1988 there was an EEPROM shortage, and Tonka did not want to buy the more expensive EEPROMs, not being able to distribute very many games for the Master System, further decreasing sales. Also in 1987, the Mark III was re-released as the Master System in Japan, as also did not sell very well. Now Sega had to move to more markets. They closed the deal in 1987 to have the Master System distributed by Mastertronic in the United Kingdom. Advance orders of the system were very high, but unfortunately the demand was not met as units were not made until Boxing Day, making shipments late. Mastertronic sold the rest of their shares to Virgin to form Virgin Mastertronic, which took over all European distribution in 1988. By 1990, the Master System was the best-selling console in Europe, selling more than 918,000 consoles, greater than Nintendo's 655,000 units. This had European developers pushing to develop on the console, unlike in Japan or the United States. The Sega Master System was also very successful in Brazil, being marketed by Tectoy. The Sega Master System, although not initially successful, did enjoy success in Europe and Brazil and other parts of the world. Being released in Japan in 1985 and being discontinued in Brazil in 1998 gave the console an amazing 13-year run, with worldwide sales between Sega and Tectoy ranging between 20 to 21 million units.
The game is Shinobi, your basic fist and stomach, foot and face arcade hit. 19 stages of major ninja warfare. Observe, you got your throwing stars, your bombs, your nunchucks. Nice shot. If you live through this round, you get ninja magic. Hey, you could be next. Guys, get off of me.
Shinobi, just one of 70 games from Sega. And coming this Christmas, 2-player Double Dragon. Sega, major fun and games.
Where do they see Double Dragon?
Master System and games sold separately.
Alright, so let's take a look at what's inside the Sega Master System. Now obviously, like most video game systems, the Master System had several different revisions of the motherboard. I'm not really going to go into detail about those revisions, just know that there's the Sega Mark III, the Master System, and then the Master System 2, which all had different revisions in their motherboards. Now, CPU is an NEC 780C based on the Zilog Z80 processor with a clock rate of 3.59 MHz. It directly addresses the RAM and the ROM, but only addresses VRAM through the VDP hardware. It has 8-bit and 16-bit instructions with 6 to 18 registers and a bus of 18 bits. The GPU is Sega's own VDP or video display processor. This was based off the TMS9918 Texas Instruments video chip, but redesigned by Sega to be more powerful. It ran at a clock rate of 10.74 MHz, had a bus width of 16 bits, and 8-bit and 16-bit registers. It directly accesses the VRAM, and it had 4 different display modes. Display modes 1 and 2 had a resolution of 256 by 192 tile map at 2 colors per tile. Mode 3 had a resolution of 64 by 48 bitmap, and Mode 4 had a resolution of 256 by 198 tile map at 16 colors per tile. I literally could go on and on about this chip for probably another 10 more minutes, so I'll stop here. But now we'll move to the audio chips,
which are embedded on a VDP.
Start with the PSG, short for Programmable Sound Generator. This chip runs at 3.57 MHz and has 4-channel mono sound with 3 square wave generators and 1 noise wave generator. It has a 12-bit 44.1 kHz PCM sampling rate. Then there's the FM sound chip, the YM2413. It had 9 FM synthesis sound channels. It could hold 15 predefined instruments and have up to 3 channels for percussion sound.
This chip was only available in the Japanese version.
Next, we'll move on to the memory of the system. Not much to talk about here, but the Master System did have
8 kilobytes of SRAM
and 16 kilobytes of video RAM, while the VDP internally had 64 bytes of its own RAM.
Sega's already brought you more than 100 super tough games straight off the streets, like Indiana Jones, Operation Wolf, Ultima 4, Paperboy, and Super Monaco Grand Prix. The better you get, the tougher they get. And now we've brought you a super radical system to play them on. The Sega Master System 2 comes with control pad and a built-in game, Alex Kidd in Miracle World. The Sega Master System 2, radically serious fun.
Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and take a 360 tour of the Master System here. So as you guys can see, this is the front of the Master System. Here we have the power button. We also have controller port 1 and controller port 2. We also have the where you put your little game cards for the Sega Master System. This is where you would stick them in to be able to play them. Now the funny thing is here guys, is that they have the reset button here, but the pause button is actually on the console itself. It's not on the controller. So that was always kind of a funky thing to actually have to get up and press pause on the actual system itself. Now here's where you actually stick your cartridge in. It's the cartridge port there. Okay. On the sides, really nothing on the sides here, just molded plastic. On the bottom, they do have an expansion port. Imagine that, another game system with an expansion port that was never used. Gotta love that, guys. Pretty funny how that works out. Then on the very back of the system here, we have the AV out. So this would be your AV cable, your composite video out. So, you know, your yellow and red and white wires for your audio and video. Then you have your RF out with your channel select switch, and then your AC adapter where you plug that into. Alright, so that's the end of the tour here, guys. So that is the Sega Master System. Let's go ahead and get this thing plugged in and get her fired up and play some games.
Sega challenges you with Afterburner, a game so exciting you can imagine you're in for the fight of your life. Game accessories sold separately.
Get ready.
Afterburner gives you the real dogfight excitement of the arcade version.
Yeah.
Like barrel rolls, nosedives, supersonic speed, and radar lock-ons.
Your turn to burn. Let's take it home.
Afterburner, only on the Sega system. Sega, the challenge will all...
Alright guys, I got her all plugged in. Now I did have to route my wires around like this because this is actually one of the systems I have plugged into the RF, and unfortunately I only have one open outlet left, and it's being shared with the Coleco and this system, so I have to run the power wire this way too. I don't have it actually routed in the back with all the rest of the cables. So let's go ahead and power it on here. You can see the light comes on. And I have Afterburner in here, one of my favorite Sega Master System games. So let's go ahead and dive right into gameplay here, guys.
Get ready.
Did you know that Sega video games are available for rental from your local video store? Did you know that Sega Master Systems are also available for rental? Did you know that Sega leads the world in the development of new and exciting video games? Did you know that Sega games feature the sharp, clear video images, vibrant colors, and realistic sound you've been craving? Did you know that Sega games have challenges for players from beginners through to masters? Did you know that Sega has a range of titles including the well-known hits Afterburner and Double Dragon? Did you know that fantasy space games, fast action games, and realistic sports simulations are all in the rapidly expanding Sega range? Did you know that each month up to 10 hot new Sega releases will be available for rental? Sega, all kinds of games, all kinds of fun. Sega, let the games begin.
Alright guys, so we've come to the end of the video. Now my thoughts and my impressions on the Sega Master System. So how I kind of remembered this system is way back in 1986, the Christmas of 1986. I wanted a Nintendo. Me and my sister both wanted an NES system. Now, the thing is with the NES is it was sold out everywhere. And so my mom actually went and picked up a Sega Master System. And when she got it home, she showed it to me. Because honestly, Christmas, the big Christmas gift wasn't really a surprise for us kids. We knew kind of what we were getting. The small stuff was the surprises, but the big things, my parents always kind of let us know what we were getting beforehand. So she showed me the Master System, and she kind of saw the look on my face. I was like, it's not the Nintendo. Now, I would have been completely happy with the Master System, don't get me wrong, but my mom did find a Nintendo. Lord knows how much she paid for the damn thing. She probably paid twice as much as what it was worth because literally you couldn't find it anywhere back then. And she ended up bringing the Nintendo home and taking back the Master System. Now, to this day, do I regret that? Not really, because let me tell you, I had some great times with the NES. And I did have friends that had the Master System, so I could always go over to their house and play the Master System. I had a friend named John. He had a Master System and a Nintendo, so it was really cool to go over to his house because I could play both game systems. But the Master System here in America really wasn't very successful. It wasn't that popular. Nintendo was the primo system here. The NES was the primo system here in America, unfortunately. For Sega. Now, it's kind of funny for me to see that the sales figure of the Atari 7800 actually outsold the Master System in America. I would have never thought that because I didn't know too many people. I maybe knew 2 or 3 people that had a 7800, and mainly everybody else either had an NES or a Sega Master System. So it really surprised me to see that the 7800 outsold the Master System here in America. That's kind of crazy to think about that. But it was widely successful in Europe and Brazil. A lot of my European YouTube subscribers and watchers out there actually requested me to do this video for the Master System because it was so popular there. And that's, like I said, because game developers weren't sewed up with Nintendo's licensing. So all those European game developers could develop games for the Sega Master System. And it was real successful there. So that's pretty much my thoughts and impressions of it. I mean, it was a great system. I mean, it was right up there with Nintendo as far as kind of graphically. Nintendo still had a little bit better graphics, but honestly, the two systems were like apples and oranges when you compared the two. They both had zapper guns. They both had like these different peripherals. The Sega with the 3D glasses, you know, Nintendo with the power pad, and Roby the robot. And so they all had these little gimmicky things to try to sell the systems to you. But I've always been a fan of Sega, and unfortunately back in the day when this came out, I was more of a Nintendo fan. That switched with the Genesis. Once I got my Genesis, I was Sega all the way until I got my PlayStation, and I've been a PlayStation person ever since. So, but anyway, guys, that's my thoughts and impressions. So if you guys have anything to leave down in the comments, go ahead and put that down there. Your thoughts, your impressions of the Sega Master System, that type of thing. Also, if you like the content, go ahead and like, and then also subscribe. And don't forget to click that little bell notification as well. That way you get notifications from me whenever I drop new content. All right, guys, well, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have a good one. Peace out.